This is the 10-Minute Teacher Podcast with your host, Vicki Davis.
Episode 815, Project-Based Learning with AI and Improving Friendships.
Today's sponsor is Research Quest from the Natural History Museum of Utah. Stay tuned at the end of the show to see how you can bring these free, awesome, inquiry-based science lessons to your classroom. Today we're talking to my new friend, Or-Tal Kiriati. She is from Tel Aviv, Israel, and we met at ISTE, Director of R&D and Entrepreneurship Teacher and Head of Entrepreneurship Department with Shamir High School in Tel Aviv. I was really interested in some of your projects that you're doing, Or-Tal, because these projects are merging what it means to be human, but also artificial intelligence. So those are two very different things. What made you think about starting to combine all these different disciplines into one project?
Well, I did these projects before artificial intelligence, and it's actually the kids. It's on their mind and on their awareness. And I thought, well, hey, we can't do anything before we learn to work with this. So we decided to explore the use of artificial intelligence in the same assignment that the kids got before that, before artificial intelligence was here.
So we're going to talk about this very unique set of projects. Now, I do want to mention that Or-Tal has graciously created a full slide deck that it gives a lot of detail about these two projects, which will be embedded in the show notes. We are debuting the use of video for this season's podcast. So we've always been putting things on YouTube, but now you're going to get to see us if you want to listen on YouTube or see slides or see whatever, but still you'll get the full experience, still listening to us in audio as well. So this is an experiment. You'll have to email me, Vicki, V-I-C-K-I, at coolcatteacher.com. Let me know what you think. Okay, Or-Tal, so you are going to talk about your first project, which is a project about masks, but it's not what anybody is going to think. It's a really unique project. So why don't you bring up your slide that kind of shows us the timeline of this particular project and tell us about this project called The Duality in Me.
This project is built around a unit in literature. You can say that it is built in order to teach Dr. Jekyll and Mr. Hyde, but I guess it teaches a lot more than that. During the launch, we explained to the students what PBL is, and we introduce the driving question of the project. The driving question of the project is, why do we wear masks? In the first lesson, we analyze it with questions. I tell the students, this is your question. Now ask me more questions that will help us answer the first question eventually. And so we start throwing various questions. I've done this project several times, and every time they keep surprising me with amazing questions like, who says we wear masks? Are the masks our creation or society's creation? And all sorts of questions. Really, it's mind-blowing once you get them to start to ask questions. The sky's the limit.
Exciting. So you kind of introduce, you talk about it. That's always a good thing to do, to have an introduction phase of the project. And so when they get past that, what are you doing?
Well, we form groups. The groups are for the duration of the project. And one of the very first lessons is titled Masks in Art. And basically, the students are introduced to classical works of art. Some of them are drawings, some of them are sculptures. And they're asked to analyze what is the mask in the work of art that they see, what does it represent, why is it there, and then they should be able to present their findings to the class. This year, what we did with AI is they were asked to do the same analysis, but then they were asked to do that analysis using ChatGPT and compare their analysis pre-ChatGPT to the analysis that ChatGPT did. The purpose, in my view, was to make them understand what are the differences between how human thinks and how AI thinks. And I was sure that if they'll see these differences, they will better know how to assess any work that they would do with ChatGPT.
Yeah, and plus it's generating. So they started seeing the differences between their thought process and what ChatGPT was generating then.
Yeah.
Fascinating. So you go all the way through and then you go into a video production stage. What do you do in the video?
In the video production, basically what they do is each group received only one chapter of Dr. Jekyll and Mr. Hyde. There are 10 chapters all in all in the book, and each group had to read only their own chapter. This is basically based on making them understand how characters and plot are built within a book. They had to take this chapter and after reading it, write a transcript or script really of the chapter, plan how to record themselves in a video doing this chapter. They had to develop the looks and the feel of the characters and act out the character, put it in on a video.
When they had their one chapter, had they read the other chapters at all, or they were only allowed to read their chapter?
No, only after I got all the videos. We presented all the videos in class as their class version of Dr. Jekyll and Mr. Hyde, which obviously brought a lot of laughs. And only then they could read the whole book. You've never seen kids so anxious to read a book in your life.
I bet they were. And I bet they were curious about what happened in the other chapters, weren't they?
And also to compare the book with the production.
Oh, that's fantastic. I think you had some examples you wanted to share.
I have some examples of the work that was submitted to me with the AI. The first one is Leonardo's Man in Red Chalk. Basically pointed out that ChatGPT focused on something else. They said we focused more on the idea, while ChatGPT first talked about the painting and Leonardo da Vinci in general, then suggested two ideas and didn't expand much on either of them. They were actually disappointed with what ChatGPT did for them.
I think this project, the way you designed it, really pulls out the nuances of what it means to be human versus what it means to have a rudimentary analysis that's more typical. Plus, you're asking them to be creative, and being creative is uniquely human. That's fascinating. So you had one other project, which we'll just have time to highlight briefly, that you did with a different grade level. What was that project and how did you pull in the different multidisciplines?
So this was a ninth grade project about friendship. The idea was it's based on a unit in a textbook. And what we wanted to do is use a different approach to teaching various topics. I teach English as a foreign language. So they had to learn new vocabulary and grammatical structure. And I also wanted them to develop some other skills like being able to research in English, to conduct an interview, to translate interviews, because they conducted their interviews mostly in Hebrew and had to translate it into English in order to present it in class. And at the end, they had to produce their own friendship handbook, how to be good friends, how to maintain friendship, etc.
I had a student this year who was star student for our school, and he named me star teacher. It's in a competition we have here in the United States, and his platform was actually about friendships and about social media in particular. And he wrote a great line in his essay. He said, "We need to put down our phones and go pick up a friend and take them out to lunch." So, do your students, your ninth graders, value friendships?
Of course they do. However, I do accept the fact that today friendships also spread around phones. There's nothing we can do about it. It's part of their social life. It's part of their daily communication.
It is part of who they are, as long as they don't lose sight with what's behind them, of course.
I used to ask my personal kids after they met a new friend, "Did you notice your new friend's eye color?" So that was the test.
So, Or-Tal Kiriati, multidisciplinary, project-based learning, a lot of really cool things here, neat ideas, Or-Tal, that I'm going to be integrating this year, because I love the idea of having a project, having students do some things, having them compare and contrast with how AI does those tasks. And that actually, in addition to giving them insight into the literature that they're studying, also gives them insight into the comparing and contrasting human intelligence and artificial intelligence and how we can work together. So this is fascinating. It was amazing to meet you at ISTE, and thank you for coming on the 10-Minute Teacher. Are you looking for engaging NGSS-aligned science lessons designed to improve critical thinking in your middle school students? Now is the time to sign up for Research Quest from the Natural History Museum of Utah. Designed by teachers for teachers, these online investigations are led by museum scientists and use the museum's incredible collections to create engaging learning experiences that are fun for your students and easy to implement. Check them out now. Go to www.coolcatteacher.com/research quest. That's coolcatteacher.com/research quest. And sign up today.
You've been listening to the 10-Minute Teacher Podcast. If you want more content from Vicki Davis, you can find her on Facebook, X.com, TikTok, Threads, Instagram, Blue Sky, and YouTube at Cool Cat Teacher. Thank you for listening.